Welcome to the Bassline. The family man Jeremy Poole, originally from South Wales and now residing in Spain, is a BitChute legend. He has provided impeccable coverage of the excess deaths that have been observed since the rollout. He has a background in economics and is well versed in a variety of subjects. It is my honor to welcome back to the Bassline, Jeremy Poole. How are you today, Jeremy? How's the weather in Barcelona?
Wow, it's cold, blinking cold, but sunny,
Wow.
which is always good. Always good to have a
Yeah.
bit of sun. Yeah, good. Thanks, Jeremiah. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I really mean that.
Likewise, I appreciate that, and the feeling is mutual. So, a
And
couple quick things for the audience. First of all, this is a re-record because if you listen to the live show on Friday, we had some audio problems, and we could have tried to sort of edit it and wiggle it into place. But I said, you know what? Let me do this conversation justice and make sure some clean audio is uploaded into the archive. So, if you heard that first conversation live, this is a different one because it's a different day. But I really thank Jeremy for taking the time to join me again. And a few announcements. We had an incredible 528 jam session on Sunday. So if you haven't made it out to one of those, please join us. We're building a scene, and it is a really good time. I mean, we literally had an 87-year-old on the dance floor with a 3-year-old. I mean, there was just all kinds of people, every age group, every so-called type of person was represented there. All the colors of the rainbow, so to speak. But it was just an incredible time. So please join us. I'll get back to you about the date, but tentatively, that would be, again, the last Sunday of November. Let me just get that booked. But let's assume, as we've been able to do for most occasions, except for one actually, let's assume that it's going to be November 30th, right? So it looks like the last day of the month will probably be our next 528 jam session, but I'll confirm that next week. Also, please go to my Substack, subscribe for free if you haven't already, become a paid subscriber if you could possibly do that. Check out the new Bassline channel on YouTube. All these interviews have been uploaded to YouTube, which sort of gives them a second wind, if you will. So it's another opportunity to share these interviews around. Maybe some of the normies might be more receptive if they're being directed to a mainstream channel such as YouTube. But yeah, I'm getting my articles uploaded there as well, text to voice, and it's becoming quite a hub. So please help me build that up. We just broke 100 subscribers, but help me race my way up to 1,000. Also, jeremiahhosea.com. You can check out my music there and buy a song like the theme song for this show, Love's the Highest Truth. Buy it for $1 if you could. And of course, schedule a chess lesson with me. I'm a chess teacher. I teach chess every day. Would love to share the game of kings and the king of games with you. But in the meantime, let's get back to our outstanding guest, Jeremy Poole. I'm a big fan of this guy. I discovered him on BitChute. He was putting incredible videos together addressing the issue of the killer vaccines. And it's always great to have perspective from different parts of the world as well. And let's get right back to the main thing that we focused on this program historically, Jeremy, which is what is going on with the excess deaths? Have you continued coverage of that? Have you kept track of that? What are some of the things that might jump out to the well-trained observer? Where do
yeah,
you stand with your excess death research at the moment?
yeah, the excess deaths still continue to a lesser extent. To a lesser extent, they should have, if the pandemic and the clot shot were what they said they were, we should have had a negative excess deaths 2022 when the rollout happened, but it didn't. It stayed positive, very much positive in 20. Where do I get the statistics? Very difficult. Sorry. I'd say that first. Very difficult. Every time there's less and less, less and less. The government's refusing to tell you the truth, refusing just to let the statistics out. But some people Keep pushing. And I'm one of those people. But if you look at somebody like Steve Kirsch, he's pushing all the time, non-stop. It's worth taking a look at him. But I look at things like Euromomo, which has been running now since I think about 1987, and it shows excess deaths in Europe. But one of the problems with it, yeah, excess deaths continue. They do continue. That's not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is the fall in births. But the excess deaths are continuing. And the problem with these stats I look at is about 3 years ago, they changed them. And suddenly, I look back at my old videos and realize, for example, I can't give you the exact data because I haven't got it in front of me. But for example, it would have said in 2017, I think it was 2016 or 2017, in 1 week, there might have been 120,000 excess deaths in Europe due to flu or different diseases in the winter. When COVID came out, after COVID being leaked out of that lab in China or whatever it came from, if it did, then those figures got downgraded. But I've still got the videos showing the old figures. They got downgraded by about 40,000 a week. Because what happened was this pandemic killed no more people than the 2016, 17 or 18 flu outbreak. And in fact, if you looked at it as I am now, I'm sorry I haven't got the camera on, but I can see that there was very little difference year on year before or after the pandemic. So yeah, excess deaths were before it and they're going after it, more so afterwards, coming down to normal now. My worry more is when you look at the data coming out from all over the world, Japan, where would the best data come from? I opened it here somewhere earlier. Yeah, the best data is probably from the Czech Republic on births. And as of the second quarter, come third quarter of 2021, the birth rate in Czech Republic, sorry. Show my age if I say Czechoslovakia, doesn't it? Shows my age. The Czech Republic, next to the Slovakian Republic, it dropped massively. And there was a guy who studied this, and it was by, I can't think of the guy's name. Yeah, Ernest Komarek from the Czech official statistics, one of the only countries that still give these statistics. They're not hiding them. And that was a shocking thing that, nobody talks about. And my biggest worry is the actual death rates, the falling birth rates. I believe, now this is not conspiracy, but almost fact, that Jeremiah, you've been to school, I assume, at some point in your life.
A little bit, unfortunately.
I will guarantee that you were taught in school about excess population, how big the population was, how we need to control it, how it's doubling so quickly, how we're going to wipe the world out with our excess. And I believe all that is the same thing. They keep pushing it. So when humans start to die, other people say, oh, well, that's okay. We need less humans.
Right.
And I was just today, I couldn't have talked about this on the live because I've just come across it today. And this is quite a shocking statistic from, and I never knew this. And this is something I don't think you know, and not many people know, that in Sweden, from 1934 to 1976, they forced sterilization on girls in Sweden and men who didn't fit the Swedish standards. We're talking 60 or 70,000 people sterilized because they weren't the perfect Swedes. And this went on until 1976. And now they haven't got enough population. They're desperate to bring immigrants in because they haven't got the population. But it was eugenics, racial eugenics. They called it racial hygiene perspective. What a pile of shit. This is the most left-wing country in Europe, or one of them. And they were using what they call racial hygiene at that point in time to sterilize young girls who didn't meet the Swedish look. That's look or ideal, I suppose. I read this today and I checked it and I found out it was true.
Yeah, that's
I,
scary. I want to look into this
it's crazy,
myself.
yeah?
Yeah,
Absolute
it's crazy.
bonkers.
So, yeah, I would love to also, I'm going to send you the resources when we finish the interview, but I'd love if you took a look at my written interview as well as two radio interviews with Dr. Kimberly Biss, as well
Yeah,
as an interview with Dr. James Thorpe. And they are both very experienced OBGYNs who have reported increase in stillbirth, fetal demise, menstrual irregularity, which of course will then later result in infertility,
yeah.
declined birth rates, et cetera. And what terrifies me is that these are very experienced professionals and they are speaking in clear terms about what they're observing in their professional observations. And it's just falling on deaf ears. It's being ignored like wacky, cuckoo, crazy conspiracy theory, nonsense. But this is
But
just
it's happening.
actual stuff that's happening, right? And you have
Well,
professionals who have no reason to exaggerate or lie about this stuff. It's simply what they're seeing.
Well, my wife, I probably told you this story last time, but this story sticks in my head. My wife, nobody in my family, apart from my mother and father, were vaccinated. And they did it so they could cross the borders to come and visit their grandchildren. And that was a drastic error because my mother had a heart attack, my father went deaf. But that's by the by. The My wife's in school. She's a teacher. And she's in the staff room talking with about five or six women because her school is mostly women. And they're talking about the vaccine. And my wife doesn't say a lot because at that time, I think I was one of three in our town that actually stood up and said, I'm not having it. Most people just sat quietly and didn't say anything. And all the women were talking about the problems they were having with their periods after they'd had the vaccine, even though the TV was telling them that's not true. And she said I don't know how many, I think she said six or seven round the table, and five of them had problems with their periods. But the news was saying it's not possible. There's no way that could happen.
Hmm.
And this gaslighting where somebody's sitting there saying, I have it, it happened to me. And they say, no, no, that can't be that. It must be something else.
Yeah.
And it did happen. It did happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's an article from NBC News, which is just as generic a source as you could possibly find.
Yeah.
And I just remember this little headline: 40% of women who have received COVID vaccines reporting changes in their menstruation. And I was just thinking, okay, so you just finished pushing this on everybody 24/7 and actually continue to push this. And you're nonchalantly reporting that almost half of the recipients have reported having menstrual irregularity. And I'm thinking, where's the Me Too movement,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you would get more outrage about someone making an offensive remark
You
than
would. You
about
would.
altering the entire population of women physically, perhaps permanently. I mean, the lack of response to that and the fact that it could be reported in the so-called mainstream, the lamestream, as you call it,
Yeah. The
in such
lamestream.
a casual way, it's chilling, it's disturbing. And I think it might harken back to this sort of mindset that you were referring to earlier, that we're being conditioned to think there's too many people on the planet, which there's so many things actually that come to mind as we're talking that I'd love to sort of pick your brain about as much of it as possible. But one thought that I've had recently, and I need to knock out an article in the next couple days, and I have a bunch of it written, but I need to start kind of getting into the meat of it. And I'd like to ask you about this theme I've been working on because I think you'll probably give me some interesting feedback here. But I want to look at the COVID event, so to speak. That's what I call it, the COVID event, to be as vague as possible because I don't even know what the hell happened still. My head's still spinning. But the point is that I think that the way people got on board for this experimental vaccine agenda so readily and so willingly in a lot of cases, I want to analyze that from the standpoint of a lack of self-esteem.
Yeah,
And I know
I would
that's
agree
not
with
the
you. But give me
entire
one
psycho.
second. Somebody's
Go,
just rung my doorbell.
oh yeah,
No,
absolutely.
they're
Go
in.
ahead, sir.
Are you in, Mikael? Good. That's okay. No, he got himself in. He used the keys. This modern fangled ideas he got.
Well, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
sorry. Yeah, well,
I
the
mean, I'll say first of all, I'll acknowledge, hey, look, let's just say, for example, there are people who they took the shot because they were told it was the right thing to do, and then they were naive, and we wouldn't necessarily describe it as a lack of self-esteem. But when you get into the concept of experimenting with your body, gambling with your life, deciding that your job is worth more than your life. Like when people would say, well, if I don't take the shot, then I can't return to work, which I'm not trying to make light of that because people were put in terrible situations. And if you have kids and if you're behind on your bills because of lockdown in particular, et cetera, people were really put in a back against the wall situation. So I don't want to sound like I'm putting those people down or calling them cowards or whatever. Everybody's life is different. And I was fortunate to navigate and survive this situation without being put into homelessness. And some people were actually, they stood firm and they weren't going to take the shot and wound up homeless because of it. So there's all those situations. I'm not trying to make light of anybody's circumstances, but it just seems to me that our lack of ability to stand up for ourselves, but also our lack of ability on a bigger scale, because of course some people did stand up, but our failure to stand up collectively across all societies and just say, no, we're not your guinea pigs. A portion of that to me has to be examined as a lack of self-esteem.
well, I would agree. But I would go a bit further than that. I would say I don't think humanity has that self-esteem. I think it's a very small number of them who have. I think anything you want, it changes. Just something like any war, any. You still there, Jeremiah?
Yeah, yeah. I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay.
Sorry.
And any war, any the attack on Iraq, the attack, any of these things, people go with it, and they haven't got the personality to question it. They're scared, most of them. They are. They live in fear that they put their head above the parapet and somebody's going to say something nasty to them. I just, the example I can think of, going to take my daughters to school, my youngest daughters, they were in like a primary school, and in the yard, first of all, people weren't allowed in the yard, and they allowed us in the yard to pick the kids up. But everybody had their masks on everywhere, apart from three of us. And they all stood on their own, and we stood, the three of us stood talking together. But everybody was looking at us as if we were killing people, and they believed it. Perhaps it's not such the lack of personality, perhaps it's the lack of questioning, the lack of looking one step further, looking, not just follow the leader, real sheep, real sheep. But perhaps that's a good thing that happened during this pandemic, that a lot of people got red pill. They actually opened their eyes when they took this, and they were injured. They were hurt. A lot of them still say, but my grandmother died of COVID. I say, so you took the vaccine? And did it bring your grandmother back? And cruel sometimes. Did it bring your grandmother back? No. But it saved a lot of other people. Of course it did. Of course it did. And I'm known for not being able to keep my mouth shut. That's one of my. I don't think it's a problem. I think when I think it's the truth, I will say it.
Right.
And I think we need more people to do that, not to sit back and bloody accept. Go on, put that in my arm. What does it do? We're safe and effective. It might kill you, but it's safe and effective. Safe and effective.
And
I don't know. I'm sorry,
sorry.
I'm gonna keep talking a bit if you don't mind, Jeremiah.
Oh yeah, no,
Barry
please, go
Young,
ahead.
he's just come into my head. Barry Young, that was his name. Barry Young was I've just looked it up now. Where Barry Young was from New Zealand. I don't know if you remember. He went to prison
Well, yeah, I remember he
because
was Steve Kirsch was the one who presented his data.
yes. I was just about to say Steve Kirsch. Now I got Very young, because he told the truth. He looked at the batches, and certain batches killed a lot of people. In New Zealand, this was like he said, batch one. I just pulled it up now. Batch one, they only vaccinated 711 people with that, and
Mm.
152 of those died.
Wow.
21% death rate.
Wow.
The next worst batch was batch eight. 221 people vaccinated, 38 died. And he's got a list of the batches. And the death rate is quite colossal. We're talking quite a few of the batches above 10% death rate, which really is massive. That was Steve Kirsch, yeah. But
Yeah.
these are kind of things that people forget.
You actually you bring us back to the excess death issue, which is kind of still what we're talking about anyhow.
Yes.
Is I wonder from your learned perspective, have you taken some time to sort of look at the global map in terms of this? Because I feel like that's a really under-researched thing in terms of a country to country comparison of what's happened. Even in the first place, before we even got to the injections, the way COVID was dispersed around the planet was nonsensical, it seemed to me. I mean, there was a large number of countries with single digit, double digit, or maybe triple digit deaths 2 years into the so-called pandemic, but it was in these Western hotspots
Yeah.
generally where all of this
Usually,
mortality was happening.
Italy, Spain, the UK, it was very specific places, almost the places that were the, the the old Western countries, and then in I think South Korea had a lot as well. It was with places that had the aged population, and this is where I come back to the eugenics thing, that the design of this disease. Well, anybody who doesn't believe the conspiracy theory that it was made between America and China, or perhaps even before that, made in America then taken to China, with a design, I believe, to get rid of older people, to start the eugenics experiment. And I know it's not direct proof, but you just got to look at made in Canada, 90,000 people killed. And you might think, yeah, okay, some old people don't want to live and say, but made has gone past that now. And this is all the same thing where you're sort of saying, old people don't care. What about young people? Well, if they're a bit worthless, there was I got really angry about 2 years ago. Figures came out on the news celebrating there was no Down syndrome people in, I think it was Iceland. Not a single Down syndrome person was being born.
Wow.
And I found that quite appalling because these people exist. And what it means was you were sort of eugenicizing in the womb before they were born. And I found that quite appalling that you're saying these people are worthless. And I found the whole eugenicist thing the same. Humanity is going the wrong road,
Yeah.
very much. And I think if anybody listened to the live now, I talked about Mousetopia, and it was since then I've looked at the exact, and it was John Calhoun, and he did a behavioral sync science on mice, and it just showed that once the population reaches a certain level, you get societal decay and lots of like mental health problems there, and it really is what is happening in our big cities where there's no space, but people have everything. They have the food, they have the water, they have the toilets, but they've got nothing else. Yeah, that was quite a thing.
Yeah, but definitely worth a revisit, the Mousetopia
Yeah.
experiment. Well, let me ask you, in terms of not to get to the end of the conversation where I try to sort of hold off till the end to talk about solutions, so we have a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But I just like to hear from you personally, as a family man, as a man of conviction. You continue to talk about this stuff. You continue to be an information spreader, a truth speaker. I just want to share, I guess, my personal sentiment that's been sort of ringing in my head, which is that we really have to find a way to bring more people into this conversation. We cannot allow this to go the way of 9/11 truth, where it's sort of like this sort of freak show event and everybody then just kind of, goes back to work eventually and then forgets about the whole thing. Because now we're talking about actually the survival of the human race. Like this strikes me as the movement that we can't really back down from. Do you have any thoughts or ideas about how do we bring more people into the discussion? How do we wake up our neighbors? And
Very difficult because they what was the saying? None so blind as those who don't want to see.
right.
And
You
most
know, the
people
way
live
I
in
say
this.
it is you can't wake somebody up who's
Yeah,
pretending to be asleep.
you can't beat their heads. You can't. But I think the odd comment, the odd find one thing, not necessarily about this. Like say if it's about climate, and there's a specific teacher I'm thinking about in my son's school who he's anti CO2, and I said please just ask him about the greening of the earth. Very positive thing about CO2, and see if it will sort of just open his eyes that there could be positives, just about something. See if you. But I find it increasingly difficult because I look into these things, so I've got lots and lots of facts. The people, what you call the normies, and I do as well, they haven't got the facts, so they just usually shouting or, huh, "You're just stupid, you are. You probably support Trump."
Yeah.
That's what I get. I would say 90% of the time. And I say I don't vote. I'm not interested. I say I would probably have voted for Trump, not the other guys, but it's all the same to me. And they waking him up is going to take a colossal. I don't know. I thought the pandemic would have done it, but it didn't. I don't know what else could wake them up
Yeah.
because
Seriously.
the media is feeding them the sleeping pills every day,
It's,
and and watch. I don't know. The solution is the same as it is in all dystopian novels. Family. All dystopian novels have one thing in common. They destroy the family. Whether it's Brave New World, 1984, Fahrenheit 451, they destroy the family. Family connections are not allowed. Parent-children connections are not allowed because they're stronger than the government.
yeah.
And dystopia needs centralized government to be the strongest connection. So when we were waiting for this, I said I was a bit late because I got the time wrong, but I actually sent you a photo of what I was doing.
Yeah.
You see what I was doing? I was preparing lunch for
Yeah.
my
Beautiful.
children.
Looked good. Looked real tasty.
It took me a long time to cook that paella. It's not the easiest dish to prepare,
Yeah.
but yeah, and that's what I tried to do. I think we should all have more children. Uh, I said something that people don't like to hear. I don't believe in female rights. I don't believe in gay rights, lesbian rights, black rights, white rights. I believe in rights for each human being. Everybody has the same rights. So
Totally
when you
agree.
start separating people, you start causing problems
Yeah.
because you were the person that's causing the problems there. I think we need to just have rights, the same rights for everybody. That's it, which we have, but they seem to be changing slowly. In the UK, it's not the same. And families start pushing families, marriage, children, bringing up children in a family, eating lunch together, talking to your children, spending time with them, reading books. Actually, there's
Yeah.
something. There's something that people have forgotten how to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I would love to ask you about vaccines in general, because I'll tell you on my personal journey, when I started this program, I made it clear I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm just opposed to this regime and the way it's being foisted upon us. But as I continued to interview people who were very learned, in this area, I started realizing, hey, wait a second, you know what? I'm an anti-vaxxer at this point, and I've actually graduated past being an anti-vaxxer. I'm a vaccine abolitionist at this point. And I wonder what your attitudes are about vaccines in general by now, if your position on that has changed or evolved as a result of COVID. But I'm reading right now the book Dissolving Illusions by Dr. Suzanne Humphreys and Roman Bistrianique. And I'm, realizing, wait a second, this whole vaccine thing might be a scam, as my guest, Dr. Leonard Horowitz, referred to it. He said, I said, can we talk about vaccines? He said, oh yeah, I could tell you all about that scam, when I was getting to know him in a phone conversation before he was my actual guest on the program. But I think that we possibly have had a problem with these injections for a long time, and that the COVID injection was just a wake up call for those who are ready to receive it. What's your take on
Well,
vaccine?
I come along the same lines as you. Uh, and only yesterday I was trying. Now I went to the evil Chat GPT, and I did this as a bit of an experiment. I asked it to give me a correlation, a graph showing uh, in Britain, the UK vaccines, the amount of vaccines kids has to have from 1965 to 2025 to now, compared to the autism rates. And it said, I can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. And I said, well, just give me the figures. I can't do that because it might be misinterpreted. And I said, it's my job to interpret it, not yours. Oh, I'm arguing with a bloody computer.
All right.
And in the end, I said, it's only for a child project in school. And it actually gave me a graph and a figure. And it does show like the trend is and it immediately says correlation is not causation. My argument was that if you've got correlation, if there's no correlation, it can't be causation, but there is a correlation.
Okay.
Yeah, but so then I went and I said, can you do the same for the United States? And it simply said no. And I said, why not? Because it could be used to show that there is a relationship between autism and vaccines. And I said, but if there's no relation, what's the problem? But it could imply there is. And I said, just give me the bloody numbers. And they wouldn't.
Yep.
So then I
Yep.
went to three other AIs and none of them would do it. None of them would even show you. So it shows that these are not, how can I put it? Just AIs. These have got purpose. If they're not prepared to show you that. But answering your question, I've come the same journey. 100% now. I'm beginning to think, shit, my children, my girls haven't had the full vaccine because I stopped it about 5 years ago. But before that, yes. And I don't, I get a lot of people who, when I talk to this, they say, oh, are you saying that I was bad giving my vaccines to my children? And I say, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying the same as I did with my children. But I stand up now and saying, shit, I was wrong.
Yeah.
They would have been far healthier without them.
Yeah.
Far. My eldest
Yeah.
daughter has got multiple sclerosis. Since she was about 5 years old, she has had skin problems and allergies. And I'm beginning to look at it now from a different point of view and think, shit, she had all her vaccines.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's that. I blame everything on vaccines now. Perhaps that's my problem.
Yeah, me too.
And I
Well,
started to
have you
look.
have you heard about the research of Dr. Paul Thomas?
Doctor, have you remind me?
Yeah, Dr. Paul Thomas is a pediatrician based in Oregon. I haven't interviewed him yet. I would love to get him for an interview at some point. But he's a pediatrician who was concerned about a few of his patients. They were, children who were having some pretty serious health issues, and he's looking at their charts, trying to figure out, well, why are these kids suffering so much? And he notices, well, wow, the sickest kids have taken all of the vaccines. Then he starts sort of laying it out and looking at his pretty large base of patients and
Mhm.
noticing, wait a second, the people who have had all the vaccines are clearly the sickest kids. The kids who have had a medium amount of vaccines, some of them are medium sick. And the unvaccinated kids are clearly the healthiest. And he had this independently vetted where they confirmed his findings. And he's presenting this as though, hey, I've made this great breakthrough. And what do? They immediately attack his license. No, no, no. You can't stop the life-saving practice of vaccines, even if you have proof that it's making kids sick. So,
Yeah.
that's sort of, there's the new documentary. I haven't even seen it yet. I'll see it very soon. An Inconvenient Study. And
Yeah,
it's
I put
confirming
it
the
on my
exact
channel.
same
I've
thing.
watched it.
Right.
Excellent it is.
Right. So, but that's basically reiterating what Dr. Paul Thomas had already said many years ago.
Yeah, I've watched that, and I think it's an excellent study, but it's going to be, how can I say, uh, put on a back burner and ignored
Yeah.
because it won't be mentioned anywhere apart from in our groups. I've showed it to my wife, and she's not there yet. She says, "Oh well, vaccines have saved a lot of lives," and I say, "Well, show me where, please." Well, all these diseases are not around, and I say, "But hasn't hospitals got better? Don't we eat better food? Don't." And it's you.
Well, I
People have to open their
guarantee
own
you, if she
eyes.
read Dissolving Illusions, she would have a different take on it. I guarantee that. I mean, one thing that is incredible is if you look at these charts of diseases, basically, we see this clear downward slope of some of these really harmful diseases that have hurt humanity. And as it slopes all the way down and almost hits the bottom, then
Boom,
we have
vaccine.
intervention of a vaccine that claims all the credit for the decline in mortality,
Yeah,
giving no credit to refrigeration, indoor plumbing, child labor laws, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things that led to longer life expectancy, decline of infectious diseases, but then also to really hammer home the point is you have other diseases that slope down in the exact same manner and then basically disappear, and there's no vaccine to give credit to.
yeah.
So,
I've done videos on this, and it seems crazy. You could show this line to people, this, and you say, and they say, "Ah, but look, it finished here, and the vaccine was there." I said, "But go back a couple of years.
yeah,
Go back 50 years before that and see what happened." And they go back, and they won't do it. They say, "Ah, but it wouldn't have disappeared without the vaccine." I say, "Look at the slope of the line. It was going to zero. It was there. The vaccine didn't change the slope of the line. It was just introduced towards the end, and they all the same, every single one." It was bad health overall. And in America and Europe, the bad health is coming back because of the bad food now, but different diseases. So and, they try to get now. I suppose this eating thing. I don't know. I haven't seen it over here. Where fat people take like a pill every day and it makes them
Ozempic,
lose
right?
weight. Oh,
Ozempic.
yeah. I've never seen it over here because the fat epidemic here is about 20 years behind the United States. So
Yeah,
there are fat people coming over here a lot,
yeah.
but it's well behind, and but there's still people over here. If you mention this, people are naturally fat, and I just lost 15 kilos, and I know it wasn't naturally fat. I wasn't exercising as much, and I was eating too much. It's
Yeah.
a quite,
I finally hit that wall myself, brother. I
you know,
literally didn't eat yesterday. I'm like, okay, I need to start implementing some fasting here because I'm
yeah.
starting to get into the dad bod.
But you know why you put weight on. It's not
Yeah.
because you're naturally fat. It's because you're
No.
eating too much and you're not exercising.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I mean,
you
I used
start
to
blaming
practice
everything
martial
else.
arts, three times a week, 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 nights a week. And now, as a family man, I'm a once a week guy. So I'm not getting enough exercise when I do my weekend warrior routine. I need to get more exercise during the course of the week.
Well, I've in this where I am now in the garage downstairs, out the back, I've put a mat on the floor, a pull-up bar on the wall, a bench press there, a rowing machine, and almost every day I go there. If I don't go for a run, which I did this morning, and I try my best to get up at 6 o'clock and do something, but oh, it's hard.
Yeah,
It's
well, that's
hard.
great, man. That's great. Keep it going, man.
Well, I
I
managed
love to
to.
hear that.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud now. I can do, reverse hand press ups,
I think so.
where
Where you
you
go
turn your
over the
hand back.
bar?
No, on the floor. You call them
Yeah.
push-ups, I think.
Okay.
Reverse your hands and do them with
Yeah.
your hands back to front. And I can do over 20 of those now. And when I started, I couldn't do one. Uh, I can do on my right arm now. It's just practice, practice. And you start getting yourself. I can do single hand push-ups now on my right hand
Right.
and my left hand. I can do about 12 on my right hand and 3 on my left hand. So I'm
Oh,
getting
that's
really
phenomenal.
proud of
Yeah, man.
myself.
I love to hear that. I'm going to work out after our interview now. You're inspiring me.
It's always possible, but it's mental. It's all
Yeah.
mental.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
And yeah,
Mental
back
strength
back
is
to where we
key.
were. Sorry, we're digressing.
No, it's okay. This is important discussion as well because
It's
yeah, I mean,
family.
yeah, it's family and when we're trying to figure out, well, what do we do in this chaotic situation? I remember one person saying, well, first thing is stay alive. If
Yeah.
they're trying to shorten your life, contradict them and elongate your life if possible through good health and good practices. But
Natural foods, natural
natural
foods,
foods,
foods
exactly.
that look like food,
Right, right.
food that you know where it's come from.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
I think America is the head of the reverse of that, isn't it? From what I read.
And we're the kings of GMO
Yes.
nonsense.
Why would
Yeah,
you want
like I
anything
said
that's
on
been
our live
modified?
discussion, it's amazing to me that we're still sending such successful athletes to the Olympics. How are they
Yes, it's
avoiding the,
impossible.
the breakfast cereals and the
Well,
the fast food and all the other packaged garbage? Especially now you have stuff that is masquerading as health stuff that's really just as toxic as anything you could eat.
yeah.
You
If it's
know.
got health on the packet, if it says healthy, you can guarantee it's not.
Yes.
If it has to say healthy on a packet, then it's not. Here's something that my youngest son brought up the other day. He's studying like vegetables and fruits and that in school. And he said, what is a fruit? Is something that's got the pip in, the part of the plant that has the pip in. He said, so seedless grapes are not fruit. And I thought, well, you might be right there. Because if they got no seed, how can they reproduce? How can they're genetically modified grapes.
Yeah.
So really, perhaps that's something we shouldn't be eating.
Yeah, pretty scary.
Yeah,
Come to think about it.
yeah,
So yeah, I would love to discuss with you something that we ventured into on the live discussion as well, which is this discussion of immigration. And
yeah.
again, I never accept option A or option B. I'm always looking for at least a third party understanding of what's going on. And I'll say, as I said previously, I'm not anti-immigrant. I don't even really feel comfortable with the term illegal alien because I don't think a human being should really be referred to as an alien. And I don't think it should necessarily be viewed as some crime if you just happen to be in any particular geographic location. If you haven't harmed anybody, I don't think you should be treated as a criminal. Even if we say, okay, you crossed the border, you don't have your documents, pay a fine or whatever to acknowledge that. But let's not treat you like you're a hardened criminal because you happen to be one place or another geographically on the planet. I also would add that I think sometimes there's a fine line between a so-called illegal immigrant and a refugee who deserves compassion. And I'll also add to that that a lot of these European countries, and first of all, the United States, has contributed to destabilizing these various countries where people are fleeing from now. I mean, the US, for example, has pumped so much arms into Mexico over the past few decades. You would think there was an ongoing World War III in Mexico alone, just based on the arms that have been pumped into that country and throughout Latin America. So while I do think the US and some of the European countries are culpable in the conditions that people are fleeing, the strange thing that I keep pointing out as it pertains to the immigration situation in the United States, and it seems similar in Europe, but particularly with the previous administration, Joe Biden simply opened the borders and allowed people to flood into the country by the millions. And there was never any statement explaining or justifying this policy. You can't find anywhere on the internet Joe Biden saying, I think we should simply open our borders. Let's increase our country's culture and population and workforce and whatever. He never gave a speech. They just did it. And it seems like as they were just doing that here in the United States, it seemed like the same thing was happening in Europe, just people flooding into the country without any major sort of announcement as to, well, what is this policy exactly? And then I'll just summarize what I'm saying by saying that while I don't believe in demonizing people from various countries or whatever, the fact of the matter is, if we already have poverty here, if we already have a dilapidated infrastructure here, we simply don't have the capacity to provide for all of these new people coming from nowhere. And it's also sort of a slap in the face to the existing communities who were told for so many years now, it's not in the budget to improve the conditions in your community as far as the playgrounds, the schools, the buses, the streets, everything. So give us a take, or give us your take on the immigration situation in terms of what's going on in Europe and Spain in particular, where you reside.
Yeah, same thing, same time, happened exactly the same. But it's more difficult over here because you have a land border. Europe, to a great extent, doesn't, unless you come through Russia, and they don't allow you through. So anybody coming across from Turkey has to cross a body of water at some point. I know it might be within Turkey, or if you're coming across, most didn't come from there. They came from North Africa, and you have to cross the Mediterranean. But even worse than that, you have to cross the Sahara Desert, which is an impossible walk. So they came. And I talked to many on the square in my town. It's a small town, but there's a lot of, before, when I first came here, there was a lot of Moroccans, because Morocco is next to Spain, and it's obvious why they come and how they come. They just come across because it's the next country. That I understand. But when you get Ghanaians from Ghana coming here, good people, I got to say that everyone I met is a good person, sitting on the square talking to them. They speak English, mine from Ghana, and explaining how it happens, because they make out on the news that they pay like £20,000 to come across, and they say they got no money. Somebody from the NGOs comes to their towns, says to them they can come to Europe and they'll get jobs and they can send money to their family, and takes them to through usually Algeria or Libya. Near Tripoli, they catch the boats, these little dinghies, and then they go out to the other NGOs like Open Arms, who bring them over, and they say they're refugees or whatever. They tell me this. This is not not made up. And they then get just dropped in towns like mine and other towns, and they don't know what to do. They're stuck. They've been taken advantage of. I think we do need more population, but I think we can do it other ways. And so these are being used as pawns. They're not guilty of anything. If they commit crimes when they're here, yes, they're guilty of something. Same as I am if I commit a crime. But they're not guilty of anything. And I don't blame them. Sometimes I get really pissed off when I'm trying to go walk somewhere and there's like, they're in big gangs and they look quite scary. But that's my downside, perhaps, that I think, oh, I don't know these people, so I'm a little bit concerned because I got two young daughters. But that's me. That I'm wrong thinking that. I should get over that.
Yeah, but it's also a very practical thing that you point out, because you remind me of, for example, I was teaching chess at a private school downtown here in New York City, and they have small parks set up in different segments of the city. And there was this, one of these small parks, and every bench was covered with an immigrant sitting there, literally taking up all the tables and all the seats. And same thing, they didn't seem like bad guys to me. I had no reason to think that they were gang members or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is, suddenly the whole park is filled. So if you
this is
work in that neighborhood, so
mean.
there's no room for me to even sit down now. That's not practical.
Yeah. The Plaza Nova in my town has got 8 benches, and I can guarantee I work overlooking it. I can guarantee I look out of my window and every bench is full with perhaps 4 or 5 black people on each bench. I say black because this is a very white area. I'm an immigrant, and you notice, but they're the ones I talk to because I know they're Ghanaians, and I know they're all very Christian, very nice people. But you can see straight away that they got nowhere to go. They got no work. They got nowhere to go, and if they got work, they're given the shittiest jobs in the world because they haven't got the qualifications, they haven't got the anything, and they live in squatting houses or in. Like 20 or 30 of them rent a flat for 2 people. They go to school and they work hard in school. They don't cause problems. But yeah, the whole thing is we do need a bigger population. But actually, taking the young people out of their countries is not doing their countries any good, or ours. All these NGOs.
And what do you think about the idea, Jeremy? Just sorry to cut you off, but I've made the connection that I think that a lot of this sudden push to bring all these people in, I think it's motivated partially, if not mostly, to cover up the depopulation that's occurred.
Yeah, no, that's what I was just going to say. That's the main reason. They were You're pushing feminism, telling women they need to work. Their families are secondary. You need more money. You can't afford families. You have to question whether you've got enough money to have families. And things have just gone down through the roof through the eugenics plans. The one I just talked to you about in Sweden. And suddenly I notice where I'm living now, all my wife's friends, they say in Catalonia, where I am, in Spain, well, some people say it's not Spain, but that's a different story.
Yeah, right.
The replacement rate is less than the one child per woman, and it would only take 4 generations just to decimate completely the population. This replacement rate, and possibly this is seen, but it doesn't help the fact that I think it was von Bismarck, about 1894, and that they just went to Africa. Well, not it was I think 12 European governments just got together and divided up Africa. Just put lines all over it and divided it into the countries they wanted, and said that's ours, that's yours, that's yours. And
The
I think
Berlin Conference.
yeah, yeah, 1894, I think, or 18, about
Yeah,
1894,
somewhere in that. Yeah, I think that's right.
something like that. And yeah, and that caused a lot of problems. What was that? The King of Belgium. What did he kill? About 10 million, wiped out, or 10 million people there.
Yeah.
To show that they were somebody cutting down. They refused to cut down trees that had rubber. I can't remember the exact details, but I don't feel guilty for it because it wasn't me. It wasn't my grandparents and my great grandparents. It was the same people I believe that are running things now,
Yeah.
the same families, the same people in charge. And I do believe they're aiming to get themselves back in charge completely again by creating a lower working class and them on top as they were then, as they are now. You know, like the likes of King Charles and their pawns, you like the chess thing, their pawns, and even our prime ministers and that.
Yeah. Well,
I could
speaking
go on
of,
about Sir Keir Starmer, Sir Socialist Worker, I doff my cap, Starmer,
okay.
the most unlike man in Britain, I think. He's,
I,
I got to mention this because it's got, people need to look up the Ukrainian rent boys that are in prison in Britain at the moment without charge. 3 Ukrainian rent boys that were had for burning down Sir Keir, I doff my cap, socialist leader Starmer. They burnt his car and one of his houses, and they got arrested, and they've been put in prison, and they got another year before their trial comes up. And I don't think they'll ever come to trial.
yeah.
So that's very
And I
interesting.
would love to get your perspective on something we didn't discuss on Friday, which is what I'm calling, and I'm seeing a lot more of it, unfortunately, neo-Nazi revanchism. I'm stumbling on this on X. I don't know if it was something that's really been going on for a long time and I was just unaware of it, or if it's really bubbling up now. But in this whole notion that people are coming to realization that we've been lied to, that up is down, down is up, everything we've been taught is a lie kind of thing. I see people venturing into this notion that Hitler wasn't really the bad guy. He was fighting the central bankers and so on and so forth. To which I say, maybe you're right. And maybe there actually weren't any good guys like we've been taught in World War II.
Yeah, that
However,
doesn't mean he wasn't a bad guy. There were no good guys.
yeah, exactly. And that's my thing, is that I think we can find someone better to look up to than one
Yeah.
of the great mass murderers of history. But have you noticed any of this Nazi
No,
or
I have very
neo-Nazi
much.
revanchism, and what's your take on it?
Well, yeah, even sitting around my own table in the house now, because of the Palestine thing, suddenly the Jews are bad guys again.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. And then people can openly talk against Jews now, even though I hold my family against that. I say, look, don't blame Jews because that's exactly what's happened in history. Blame the Jews. Just say, okay, you might not be pro or anti-Jew. Just be neutral on Jews. Be neutral on the other things and be pro be pro something. Be pro, like if you're like me, you're a Christian. Be pro Christianity. Try and turn the other cheek. Try and be good. Yeah, it's very difficult because it is happening. And I think what happened in Palestine now has pushed it a long way to the front because you've now got the left wing people quite happy, who are the ones defending against Nazis. Who I've got no idea what Nazis are anymore, to be honest, because I've been called one, and perhaps that's also helping. That I stand up for free speech, and bloody hell, you're a Nazi. You'd stand up for Nazis to be able to speak, and yes, I would actually. I think they should be allowed to speak, so
The
we can then
definition
argue
of free
against their
speech.
arguments. Yeah, and then you're a Nazi. Yeah, so the word Nazi means nothing to me anymore. And but I agree with what you're saying.
You know
I
what's
think it's a
funny? I have a
bad road to
friend.
go down. A
I have a good
bad road to go down.
Yeah, bad road. I have a good friend. He's a poet, and some of his poems are very short. And he has one poem where he says, Nazi, Nazi, you are a Nazi because you do not see. And that's the whole poem.
Yeah, well, that is so true. And I would say, um, we say, are they Nazis? Well, a Nazi is totalitarian. Is it left wing or right wing? Well, if you're a big government and you're totalitarian, you have to be left wing because the right wing is usually small government or no government. But the right wing was, they said, was Hitler, and the left wing was social, was the Stalinism and this kind of thing. And it's very hard because I've read, 1984, and I've got here somewhere. I'm turning away from the mic, sorry. A section of, I'm looking for the book now, George Orwell's books, like Homage to Catalonia. And he was George Orwell was not a socialist, he was a communist, and he fought against the nationalists in the Spanish Civil War. And then he turned against the Russian style of communism because he said it was totalitarianism. And he finished his life saying that the next big totalitarian governments would all be like liberal governments who were doing it for you through the through paperwork, basically, like they do now. It's all good for you. Oh, you have to do this because it's good. And I see that happening now. I do see it. People are turning, I would say the left is turning more towards Nazism and fascism than the right. But I see openly now people in the streets saying, yes, I'm anti-Jew. Yes, I'm extreme right. You see those as well, yeah. So it is, we are being divided. But we shouldn't allow them to divide us because it's divide and conquer again. It's still the same thing. Two wings on the same bird, two cheeks on the same arse. It's all the same thing.
I agree. And I equate the sort of obsession with the Jews with sort of the analogy of insisting that a chess game is a checkers game because you're not up to sort of understanding all the complexities of what's happening on the board. And I ask, okay, there are some powerful Jews, perhaps some corrupt Jews, Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein. However, do you think the Jews control the Chinese government with their thousands of years of history? Do you think the Jews control the Saudi royal family? Do they control the Vatican? I mean, there are different centers of power. They show all the Jews who were involved in the COVID agenda. But what about all the non-Jews who were involved? I mean, sure, you could
There
make
was
a
loads of
picture.
Christians there as well. There was loads
Absolutely.
of
Joe
Christians.
Biden is not a Jew. You
No.
could say, oh, well, he's a Zionist. Well, okay, got you, but he's not a Jew. So, the other people are involved in this corruption for sure, who aren't necessarily Jews. But also, it has to be made clear that some of the strongest anti-Zionist voices out there are Jews. I mean, there are so many Jews in this world who are absolutely appalled at the actions of Israel and don't want to be associated with those actions at all. And were some of the leading voices in protesting this last wave of violence, which unfortunately still continues after the so-called ceasefire.
And it will continue. I told you last time, did you check with the gas? The gas on the big gas reserves sitting under and just off the coast of Gaza, which is very quiet and nobody seems to mention.
Yeah.
It's oil reserves, not oil, gas. It's gas there. And for such a a big amount of money, nobody mentions it. So I wonder whether that's got anything to do with it. But yeah, you are dead right. That's 100% right. That the anti-Jew Nazi feeling seems to be growing. The book you said was Dissolving Illusions, yeah?
Yes, you definitely want to get your hands on that. It's a great um anti-vax sort of text, but it's a great historical book. You know, the vaccine issue aside, which of course it focuses on, it covers a lot of really incredible history that we should definitely review.
Yeah, you like that film, the docu film that you said about then. It's a good film.
Yeah,
It's not that long. It's about an hour long, and it talks about this new study that came out. So you should take a look at that as well.
I'm definitely
But
going to take a look at that.
that is Susan Humphreys, the book.
Yeah, Dr. Suzanne Humphreys, Roman Bistrianique,
Yeah, I got
and
it. I'll
yeah,
buy it now.
great book. And yeah, let me see. We're pretty much out of time, but since this is a pre-recorded show, or actually a re-recorded show in this case, we it's okay if we go over a little bit, because although they'll fade us out on the air, um, this is just in the archive, so we're okay to go over the hour just a little bit. But trying to think what else is there that we should discuss at this moment. One thing I'd like to mention to you is we have a community on X. I'm going to send you a link to join the group, but we have a group called the Stop the Shots community on X.
Stop the shots. I
Yeah.
got X open now, so stop the shots.
Yeah, look up Stop the Shots and please join that community. We just
I
broke
will.
4,900 members. Please tell a friend or two about that, and post stuff on our wall if you could. All your videos and all your stuff, please share it. I'm going to do a little campaign to make our community aware
I
of
can't
what you're
find it.
doing.
Wait, hold on. I'm looking for Stop the Shops community now. Is it one word?
No, it's separated. Stop the Shots. But yeah, that'd be
Community.
interesting if you could even find it, because we are
I can't
concerned.
find it.
Wow.
I put
That's
Stop the Shots in the search bar. Stop the Shots community.
There you go. There's the algorithmic suppression. So I'm gonna have to send you a direct
Oh, well,
link.
there's somebody on there says, to my followers, please join Stop the Shots community. And Jeremiah Hosea is there as well. So that's you. So I've got it, but it didn't actually bring me to it.
That's where, you know what you could do? You could click on my profile page and I have it pinned to the page. It's right there on my
Okay.
profile. But yeah, it's pretty
I'm
crazy.
now on your profile page, and it is in your profile. Stop the Shots. Here we are. I will
Right. So
join
just
that
click join
now. I
community.
have now joined.
Oh, that's so great. So yeah, I'm honored.
I will
You
have a look through that.
yeah. So you know, we meet every night, and it's the problem is for you is that you're sleeping. It's the middle of the night
Yeah.
by the time we're having our discussions. But you could
Well,
check the
another
recording
thing before we
sometimes.
finish, one of the
Yes.
things you asked me about last week was the AI and that, and and the sort of the craziness. I've always think, and this has put me out with a lot of people, is I've always thought as if the devil is out there, he's Elon Musk. Okay, now he suddenly supported Trump, so he's a bad guy, because who's the guy who's trying to put things in our heads, chips in our heads? It's Elon Musk. Who's
Yeah.
the guy who's putting thousands of satellites up there to connect every single person? It's Elon Musk. If anybody can have the ability to take over the world through these sort of cyborg type of takeovers, it's him. And the Starlink with the what's the one where they put the chip in your head?
Neuralink.
Neuralink. Those two things together, that's it.
Yeah,
It's
bad
over.
news.
It's over.
Yeah, I remember Elon Musk when they were asking him about people flying to Mars, basically, and trying to do some exhibition to Mars. He sort of chuckled when it was suggested that some people might die in the effort to do so. He couldn't help but just chuckle at the idea, because he knows he's not getting on a ship to go stand on the Martian surface. You know, he'll sacrifice others for that, and
Yeah.
retrieve the data, so to speak, if they could gather any. Yeah, Elon Musk is a curious figure for sure. And yeah, I mean, so many odd things I could bring up about him. But one thing I find about him is that, you know, people refer to him as a genius, And I don't quite, I've never understood why exactly, because even, for example, he did a big sort of online town hall with Trump before the election, and it was a big deal. It was like, this is going to be the biggest space in the history of X. And first of all, it started late. They had technical problems. They couldn't even launch it on time. But then he seemed to be at a loss for words. I'm kind of waiting for this big moment of Elon's going to cover all these issues that we don't normally discuss through the lamestream media. But he was at a loss for words. It sounded like he was just sort of sitting there and didn't know what to say. I don't know if you caught that.
No, I know because I know that a lot of the things can look very positive about him, but and then when he changed sides, it was to me the left loved him for a long time, and I always thought this guy is a bad guy, even though he's making out he's good, and I try not to watch him because I always think that if there was a demon who wanted to take control, I know this might be a bit out there, but he wouldn't take control by saying he's a bad guy. He'd be doing it to be a good to look like a good guy. He's not going to come with horns and saying I'm going to take over the world and kill everybody. No, he's going to come saying I'm a good guy. I'm going to help everybody. Everything's going to be good. And I see this guy as the one that's a possibility. There's lots of others, but this guy doesn't do it for me. There's something wrong there.
Yeah, it was also strange that he had that very sort of public, almost like a teenage style. It felt like a squabble between teenagers. He had that falling out with Trump
Yeah,
after campaigning with him. And, I just found that interesting because, one minute you're dedicating so much time to this man's campaign, and then you just suddenly realize, oh, you don't like him and you're going to kind of pursue a public feud with him. He didn't realize, well, that kind of puts egg on your face too, if you
yeah,
don't realize.
yeah. No, it's a strange situation, that Musk situation. It's one of the things that I think people don't understand me because they think I support him. I don't support. I said no, I don't like this guy. I've said since day one, and he does good things. Some of the things I love those Teslas, even though I'm not having an electric car.
Sure.
I think they're cool, but no, I wouldn't have one.
Yeah, and he was the man, of course, who granted us our free speech again on X, and he,
Yes,
allowed
yes,
the various accounts that were shut down to be reinstated, which is sort of a
including mine,
scary idea.
including mine. Mine was
Say it.
closed down
Oh wow.
the day before he took over, or the day after. It was like the minute that they knew he was taking over, my account went, and it was shit. And then about a week later, or 2 weeks later, it came back overnight. That's
Yeah.
why I've got two Twitter accounts now because I
Oh,
opened
good.
another one straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a backup as well. It's a good idea because yeah, it's strange how there's a lingering algorithmic suppression like you saw when you just tried to search for Stop the Shots.
Yeah,
They've
yeah.
reinstated people, but there's a weird slant against the medical freedom conversation still.
Oh, there
It's
is a
noticeable.
lot, a lot,
Yeah.
a lot. This with like Chat GPT, which other ones I used? I looked about the Google AI and I used Deep Thought. I got the three of those in different places, and none of them would give me the details of the America of showing the just a graph showing the number of vaccines on the childhood schedule compared to the number of autism cases, or the number of the number of the one of the study, the number of like bad things that happen to kids. I suppose I'm more.
Yeah, I call AI, most of those AI systems, Grok, Chat GPT, they're high-tech shills.
Yes, I agree. 100%. 100%. Because I always keep going back and asking them the questions and then say, what about this? And they just say, okay, and they will go along and say, yes, you're right. But they won't say it unless you ask like 6 or 7 different leading questions in different ways till you get to the answer. They will give you what I would say is the correct answer in the end, but they won't give it you first time. And if you were a child in school or somebody who's not as don't want to dig as deep as I do, you will not know the truth from the first answer. You have to ask more and more and more. And in the end, they generally, something like ChatGPT will give you the answer of the original question. Like, like I say, it's, for example, I'd say something like, is CO2 good for the planet? And it'll tell you, oh, bad, 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 bad. And you've got to ask 4 or 5 different questions then to get the answer. It'll say, well, overall, it is a positive for the planet. Things like that.
Yeah, exactly. You have to press.
Yeah, you have to keep
So
asking more and more questions until you come to the answer, not the answer you want, but the answer that you know is correct. But it won't tell you that straight away. And at the end, it'll say, so, and if you ask again the original question, it will then answer it straightforward. Very, very. Anyway, I'm going to have to leave you now, Jeremiah.
yeah, we're out of time. Actually, we're a little over time, but I thank you so much, Jeremy, for taking the time. Could you please tell us about your BitChute channel, your X account, how people can
Just
follow
look
you?
me up on BitChute, on Rumble, on Odyssey. I'm Jeremy Poole, the family man. I don't know what my name is. I don't look at it in terms of looking at my own name. Yeah, it's Jeremy Poole 2, because the Jeremy Poole one was cancelled very early on. And I'm Jeremy Poole 2 now, uh, on uh, on Twitter.
Excellent. Yeah, it's Poole, Jeremy
Yes,
Poole.
Poole. Yeah, I forget
And
that because I've always spelled it like that, so I never think about that.
yeah, right.
Jeremy Poole 2, at Jeremy Poole 2. I'm always a crow. You'll see pictures of the crow, and that's me. Because I also write books. I don't anymore. I haven't got time with so many kids, but about Celtic legends and zombies,
Oh
and
wow. Yeah.
they're different books, not the same books.
Yeah. Now we have another zombie problem.
Yeah, I like zombie films and books. I know they're easy and they're straightforward, but I like that. The good and
Yes,
the
it's an
bad.
unfortunate metaphor for our current situation.
It is. It is. Yes, but you
Well,
can't
thank you
shoot
so
all these
much.
zombies in the head.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. Stay in touch. Keep up the great work. And I look forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. And anytime you want me to come on the show, just give me a ring. I'm around. I managed
Absolutely,
to
man.
find some time for you, Jeremiah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll definitely be taking you up on that. Have a great
Yeah.
day.
You too.
All right, brother. Take care.